What's up, guys? A little bit of a special video today. I wanted to take the time to kind of give a little bit of insight into me personally. Everything from my childhood, where I grew up, my interests when I was younger, what my journey so far, what led me into Strongman, and where I see myself in the future. I wanted to get a little bit more personal, especially for the people who may be either new to my channel or maybe just new to me as a competitive strongman. Wanted to get a little bit more personal and give you a little bit more of an insight into the T-Rex and who Evan Singleton really is. I was born 1992, October 9th. I was born 13 pounds and 24 inches, so I was big from the get-go. I was, for the most part, pretty normal as a child. I got a little bit heavier once I reached about 8, 9 years old. I started getting really chubby, and obviously the chubby kid gets targeted, and it got pretty rough for a while. I didn't have a very good time in school. I was picked on a lot for being heavy, and by the time I was 13, I was talking to my dad one day, and he told me that I'm the only one that's going to be able to do something about it and change it. So I decided to go to the gym. I played sports. I played football. I played almost everything at least once. I did track, football, basketball, baseball, tried tennis. Like, I tried everything. And honestly, the only thing that really stood out to me and that I was really good at was amateur wrestling, collegiate to be specific. And yeah, I just kind of got better every single year. I got really good at taking people down. I got really good at my grappling game. And it was just something that I enjoyed. There was something awesome about being out there. In my opinion, I'm a big fan of individual sports. Team sports, not the biggest fan. I don't watch anything else per se. NBA, MLB, NFL, NHL. I don't watch any of that. I'm just not particularly interested. As far as the sports that I did like, I liked amateur wrestling. And actually, to aid me in becoming a better amateur wrestler, I took up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for about 2-3 years. But I got heavy. I got really heavy. And I just started going to the gym because I was tired of people making fun of me. And I also figured that if I started getting into the gym and got more muscular, I would not be as chubby, and people would stop picking on me, honestly. So, yeah, fat shaming works. No, I'm just kidding. In my case, it did. So I busted my ass. I trained every single day after wrestling practice. So I would be at wrestling practice for 2-3 hours, and then I would go to the gym after that for about 2 hours and just do weight training. So I would like to think that I was a monster. I was a very accomplished amateur wrestler. I knew what I was doing on the mat. I knew how to bring people down. I knew how to hold them there. Not to mention I was tall, and that helped. I threw legs, so that helped. And I was really strong. My conditioning was the best it's ever been in my entire life. I genuinely think if I got onto a wrestling mat right now, I would probably last like maybe 30, 45 seconds of going hard, and then I'd be gassed. When I was in high school, I went through a lot of different career path ideas that I wanted. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to join the Army and the Marines. I wanted to be a massage therapist. I wanted to be a bunch of different things. And one thing that I really wanted to push hard for, and I really wanted to pursue because I really enjoyed it, was professional wrestling. I wanted to be in the WWE. I had big aspirations of going to WrestleMania and winning the title and being famous and all of that good stuff. After I graduated high school, I found a professional wrestling school in Philadelphia. I was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, born and raised. And it was about an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half drive there and an hour and a half drive back. So 3 hours. And I made that drive 4 times a week. I would go there 3 times a week to train. And then they would have a show on Saturday. And I would go there. I would help set up the ring. I would do security. I would take tickets, stuff like that. But one day, somebody came. His name was Nick Burke. Amazing guy. Love that dude. for the opportunity that I had with WWE. I do owe it to him. I thank him. Nick saw me one day, and I had no idea who this man was at the time. And he said, "Excuse me, but I think you have a great look. I think you're super athletic. You're very young. You're essentially moldable into what WWE looks for in a superstar. Do you mind if I take your picture and I get your information and I send it to my friend who works in WWE talent relations?" I figure that's my goal, and I have nothing to lose if this goes nowhere. So I say, screw it. Take my picture. I did some flexing and all that good stuff. And he took all my information and sent it off, and months go by, I don't hear anything. I was like, all right, well, that was probably a bust. So just keep on training, keep on working. I had 2 jobs at this point, and yeah. Oh, also a side note. Just to give you a little bit of perspective of how accomplished I was in amateur wrestling, I had a scholarship offer for Penn State and Rutgers University to be their heavyweight wrestler. So anybody who's familiar with collegiate wrestling, those are big schools for wrestling. That's a big deal. So, but because I'm the type of person that I am, I wanted to pursue my dreams, and I turned the scholarships down. So I'm pursuing WWE. So I want to say about 6 months go by, and I get a phone call from John Laurinaitis. He runs all of talent relations in WWE. He gives me a call, and he offers me a week tryout to go down to, at the time, Tampa, Florida, where their training center was. Go down to Tampa, Florida for a week. They're going to see what I can do, see what I'm made of, meet me, introduce me to the world of wrestling and all of that good stuff. And that's pretty much how they test out their new recruits to see if they want to offer them a contract or not. And I went down there. I showed them what I could do in the ring, which was very limited because I was still so new, or green, as they like to say in the business. And I cut a promo. I showed up every day in a suit because I wanted to make the best impression I could. And yeah, I flew back to Pennsylvania, and I just kept my fingers crossed, and I hoped for the best, and I went back to my normal life. I went back to Philadelphia 4 times a week, went back to my 2 jobs, and hoped for the best. And sure enough, a couple months later, I got a phone call from John Laurinaitis offering me a 3-year contract. And that was one of the first real big wins in my life. That meant so much to me that I had that opportunity. Was what I always wanted to do. It's what I dreamed of doing for years and years. And I finally got the opportunity. So I quit my jobs. I packed up my car, and I drove to Florida from Pennsylvania to move into a new apartment by myself. And yeah, I'm in WWE now. So I would go to WWE 5 nights a week, travel on the weekends to shows. It's where I had my first couple of matches in front of a live crowd. Very nervous, still very green. I didn't take to competing in the ring as fast as I would have liked, or anybody else would have liked, because it was really hard for me to catch on to everything. It took a while, essentially, is what it took. It took a while. And I was wrestling a match with, wrestling fans will know him, Eric Rowan. And the end of the match saw me taking a choke slam, and that was the finish to the match. Now, I don't know what happened, but the move was performed incorrectly, and I ended up, instead of landing on my flat back to absorb all of the impact, and it's not painful, I landed on the back of my head. My head bounced off of the mat, and my brain rattled inside my skull. It resulted in a hemorrhage in the left side of my brain. Yeah, to this day, I still don't remember the first 2 months after that happened. I have no recollection. I only know what people told me happened in that time frame. And because of that resulting injury, I have symptoms that I have to live with to this very day. After about 6-7 months, I saw my neurologist in Florida, and she pretty much told me that these are symptoms that you're going to have for the rest of your life, and wrestling, I wouldn't recommend it. Because if you take another blow like that to the back of the head, your hemorrhage could reopen and you will bleed inside of your skull until the pressure compresses your brain so much that it kills it and you die. So I was 19 when that happened. And yeah, my life changed forever at 19. And yeah, that was really hard to hear. Looking back in retrospect, that was really, really hard to hear from my neurologist that I can't wrestle anymore. My dream's gone. And what I'm dealing with now is what I'm going to be dealing with for the rest of my life. That was a hard pill to swallow. So after my little stint in WWE and I stopped training, my neurologist did not clear me to exercise, obviously go into the ring, exercise, lift weights, nothing. She was too scared of the strain that it would put on my brain and was worried that it would re-rupture. So I couldn't exercise. I lost all my motivation. I was just sitting at home every day. Multiple different tests done. I did multiple MRI. I lost count of how many MRIs and CAT scans I did. They did an EKG where I carried around this device that had wires that were attached to my head, like for like a week straight, and that was hell. So I lost all my motivation. I was maybe 250 pounds when I was wrestling actively, and I just ballooned up to 380, 390 pounds of really bad weight. I'm talking, I would down a 2 liter of soda and 2 2 full-size pizzas every single day. Like every single day. I got kicked out of 2 Chinese places, like buffets, all you can eat buffets, and a Mongolian grill when I was that heavy. My eating was like competitive eater level. It was stupid. Thanks, depression. But yeah, I ballooned up to about 380, 390, and the depression got really, really bad. That's when I started dealing with thoughts of self-harm, and one of the lowest points in my life. I didn't know it almost felt like I was in purgatory. It really did. I had no idea what the future held. I had no idea how I was going to get out of this. I felt like I was just stuck doing what I was doing every single day, and I thought it was going to be forever because I just didn't see any light. It was really rough. But good news. So that went on for months, but one day I went to check in with my neurologist, and she said, I think that you've healed enough so that you can slowly start integrating exercise back into your routine. Amazing. I'm done wrestling at this point. I'm overweight. I hate what I see in the mirror. And I know that I'm the only one that my dad's words still resonate with me. You're the only one that can do something about it. So I made the commitment right there. I'm going to be a bodybuilder. I'm going to try bodybuilding. I hate what I see in the mirror. I see it every day. I don't like it. I want to like what I see in the mirror, and I want to be able to visibly see all of the hard work that I do. I've always been a hard worker. It's what I learned in amateur wrestling. It's what I do in Strongman. I train hard. I compete hard. I just go. I don't know how to not bust my ass. I just don't. So I made the commitment to myself. I'm going to be a bodybuilder. I moved back to Pennsylvania, where I had a little bit of help from my mom and my stepdad, Daryl. And yeah, with their help, I managed to start accumulating jobs. I like to consider myself a master of all trades. When I'm super, super dedicated to what I decide to do with my life, whether that be strongman, bodybuilding, pro wrestling, anything, I will put that thing first, no matter what. So unfortunately, that means that I'm not the most employable for a normal job, a normal 9 to 5 job. So I am kind of a jack of all trades. I have done work in construction, forklift operating, FedEx. I worked with the post service for a while. I was a firefighter for a little bit. I have done everything. I've done a little bit of everything. I was steak chef. That's my most recent one. I just have done it all. So I'm jumping around from job to job, trying to find something that fits my workout schedule, dieting, and all of that. And I'm happy to say I found a coach too, Daryl Heisey, my brother. He took me on, just wanted to help me out, saw potential in me. He helped me, he prepped me, he wrote out my diet, he worked out with me, and Daryl got me ready. We found the Bev Francis Classic in New York, and that was my one and only show. So we drove out there. I ended up taking third, which was awesome for my first bodybuilding show ever. I'll take it. I ended up starting my prep at 385 pounds. I got on stage shredded at 240 pounds. So I lost 145 pounds. It was definitely an experience. It wasn't hard. That dieting was really rough. Oh man, that dieting was rough. That sucked. But I will say this, I'm very proud of myself that I proved that I was able to do that. I lost an extreme amount of weight. I looked fantastic. I love the way that I look. And I'm super happy that I was able to prove to myself that I'm mentally strong enough to handle anything. Trust me, if you go through an entire bodybuilding prep and then get on stage, you can handle anything mentally, trust me. So yeah, I did bodybuilding for one show. It was in New York, and literally like a week after my show, I was like, I don't think bodybuilding's for me. I can't do it. I'm a fat kid at heart, and I like to eat a lot, so I don't think bodybuilding was really for me. So I had a dilemma. I wanted to keep competing because I am somebody who is very competitive by nature. I need to be doing something. I need to be competing. So in my head, what's the next thing that I can do that is weightlifting related, that is non-contact because of the head thing, that I can compete in? In my mind, it was powerlifting and strongman. So I decided to do powerlifting. That was my first decision. It really was. I found a gym in Lancaster because I moved back home. Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It was McMillan's Training Systems, run by Rick and Lauren. I love them to death. And I get to the gym and I just wanted to take a tour, just see what it was all about. My idea, my thought process was I'm going to try powerlifting because it's significantly simpler than strongman. It's 3 lifts versus like 50 with all kinds of different techniques and objects and all of that good stuff. I thought it would be easier to start with that and move my way to strongman. Also to build a very good strength base. That's my thought process. So I decided to pursue powerlifting. And sure enough, I go in, I take the tour, and one of my very good friends, his name is George Pearson. Well, good friends is a severe understatement. I love George Pearson like a dad. I really do. I would do anything for George. He was training and he was doing log. And we started bullshitting a little bit, and he invited me to jump in with him and try log. I figure, why not? What could happen? Why not? I hopped on the platform. I was doing the reps with him. I worked my way up to 300 pounds the first time I ever touched a log. The oh God, the form was so bad. It was terrible. But I did that with him, and I started really picking his brain about Strongman and the different events, competing and everything like that. And he invited me to start training with him for like a week or two. I was like, you know what? Why not? I'm not doing anything right now. I have like 2 or 3 jobs at this point. I'm not doing anything spectacular right now, and I'm still trying to figure out which path I want to go down. So why not? I trained with George for the next 2 weeks, and I want to say within a week and a half to the end of those 2 weeks, I was like, found it. This is what I want. And at the end of those 2 weeks, when I thought to myself, I finally found the thing that I'm meant to do in this world, I told myself, I promised myself, one day I will be the world's strongest man. I'm not going to go to Worlds. I'm not going to get in the final. I'm going to win. And that is something that I've been chasing ever since. My first competition was North Carolina's Strongest Man 2018. Very new, very nervous, different atmosphere, and overall just first time really competing in that kind of atmosphere. But there was something about it that I just loved. I loved being under the lights by myself. I loved the feeling of lifting something heavy in front of a crowd. Not to mention it was my first taste of the Strongman Brotherhood. I mean, somebody who's never done a competition before. I'm competing with guys who competed at World's Strongest Man, the Arnold, Ohio, who've been doing this for like 5-10 years now. I competed in North Carolina's with a lot of really good guys. And I won. I won first place. I believe I went into the last event, which was Stones, by like an 8 or 9 point lead. So, needless to say, I had a pretty good start. Now, the reason that I picked North Carolina's Strongest Man was the winner of the Open division received an invite to Giants Live. And in my head, that was obviously the path to World's Strongest Man. World's Strongest Man was my goal, and Giants Live is how I get there. That's how I decided on that competition. I trained my ass off for that competition, and I won. So my second show ever was a Giants Live. That was in Martinsville, Indiana, the Giants Live North American Championships 2018. That was in June. It's my second competition. I'm competing with Lawrence Chalet, Mark Felix, Trey Mitchell, Kevin Fairs, all of these guys who have been doing this for a while. They're established, they're good. And I I made my fair share of rookie mistakes. I thought I would be placing a lot better. Unfortunately, I just didn't really have a good grasp on what I was doing. So unfortunately, that resulted in me making a lot of mistakes, costing me points. And overall, I ended up 8th place. Not exactly what I wanted. I wanted top 3 so I could go to Worlds, but I didn't let it discourage me. I went back home. I started training again. And then I competed at OSG later on in that year to hopefully get another Giants Live spot. And unfortunately, I made it to the top 10. And then on the first day of I believe it was day 3 of the top 10, I ended up injuring my back and I wasn't able to push for the podium. So it was a minor tweak. It was nothing. It wasn't even, I wouldn't even consider it an injury. It was just something that hindered me from doing the upcoming events in that moment. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to push podium. And yeah, overall, pretty bummed. But again, I didn't let that discourage me. I went back to McMillan's, and I just kept training, kept focusing on getting stronger and stronger. So after OSG, a little bit of time goes by. I'm focusing on my lifts. I'm focusing on getting stronger and just getting more efficient at all the movements. And I get a phone call that I am being offered a position as an alternate and an equipment tester for World's Strongest Man 2019. out of nowhere. Wild card invite. Yes. Where do I sign? I was that feeling that I had, when I was 18, and I got that phone call from John Laurinaitis about getting signed. That's what it felt like. I felt that all over again. It was just amazing, and I loved that feeling so much. Let me put it to you in perspective of how much I will dedicate myself to Strongman. When I got that invite, I was currently working at a factory that was making industrial and residential boilers, water heaters, and I was making them all by hand, conveyor belt system, all of that good stuff. So I approached my boss months in advance, like at least 3 months in advance. I approached him and I asked, can I have about 2 weeks off? I know it's a lot of time. You don't have to pay me for them, but I can't miss this opportunity. My employer told me that I can't. He needs me there. I quit. This is the path that I am deciding to take with my life, and I'm not going to miss this milestone, going to World's Strongest Man, potentially getting into the competition, meeting everybody for a job that I'm not dedicated to. So I quit on the spot. I walked out, gone. I went to World's Strongest Man in 2019. That's where I met everybody for the first time. I was just having the time of my life. I tested out all the equipment. I tested out the monster truck pool. I tested out the like the 1360 yoke that we had to carry. I tested out a couple of different things. I just played around with the dumbbells, logs, the anchor, not the anchor, the anvil, the loading race stuff, all of that good stuff. It's my first time there. I wanted to get my hands on some shit. So yeah, I was having time of my life, and the competition did start. And I even offered, I said, hey guys, I'm here for like the entire competition. Do you have anything for me to do? Is there anything that I can do to help the competition run a little bit smoother? So they gave me a white shirt and a stopwatch, and I became a backup timer and referee for Magnus Magnuson. I thought that was pretty awesome. So yeah, my first experience at World's Strongest Man was really amazing. So I got back from Worlds, and while I was at Worlds, I was offered the opportunity to come back to Giants Live North America in 2019 to compete. Obviously, I accepted that offer graciously and very happily. Trained my ass off 4 months. Sure enough, I go there and I win, despite all the odds. That day was amazing. I beat Mark Felix, Trey Mitchell, Kevin Fairs, so many guys, Rob Kearney. That show was just amazing. It was my first pro win. I got to stand on top of the podium, and I got to I remember after we did the photo shoots and we filmed all the stuff for television, I remember just sitting on the podium and my trophy's in between my feet. I'm just sitting there and I'm just lost in space, just not looking at anything. And that was like my moment where I was like, I actually made it to World's Strongest Man. The dream is happening. That's not a feeling that you can really ever replicate. Honestly, it's one of those things that's just, it's something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. So after I won that, I went to my first World's Strongest Man in 2020. I was also offered the opportunity to come out to Giants Live Manchester in 2019, where I ended up coming 5th. Just an amazing experience. My first time ever outside of the country of the United States. It was amazing. It was awesome. So from there, went to World's Strongest Man in 2020. So World's Strongest Man 2020. I'm in my heat with Kevin Fairs, Mark Felix, Mikhail Shivlikov, Adam Bishop. All right. So it's us all going at it. I go into the last event winning the heat. The last event was the circus dumbbell ladder with the double rope dumbbells. And it was a great event for me. I trained it hard. I knew I was good. And yeah. Yeah. So I finish all the double dumbbells and I get to the circus dumbbell. I clean the first one and I feel something's off. I go for the press. I get it down. I go to clean the second one and I feel that infamous pop. Pop. I was terrified, but at the same time, I knew what happened. And the psychopath that I am, don't recommend this, but this is what I did. I grabbed that sumbitch and I cleaned it anyway. Pop, pop, pop 2 more times. Cleaned it up to my shoulder. The second my hand came off, shooting pain down my arm. I went for the press. I was focused on the pain. I didn't get the press. The press would have won the event for me, and I would have qualified for the final. Distal bicep tendon on my left arm is completely detached. So that was unfortunately my first year World's Strongest Man. I was going from making it to the final my rookie year to having a torn bicep and sitting out. Went back to Pennsylvania, got the surgery to get it reattached. And yeah, from there it was just rebuilding because I knew what I had to do. I came back in 2021 with a point to prove because I was a bat out of hell. I was a man on a mission in 21. In 21, I was invited to Giants Live Manchester, which I won. I was invited to Giants Live Presents the Arnold UK. I won. Giants Live Glasgow, got 3rd behind the Stoltmans. Giants Live, the Strongman Classic in London. I got 2nd behind Alexei, and it was close. I almost got that Ukrainian bastard. I went to the Shaw Classic, and I got 5th by a small margin, and I had to pull out of one of the events at risk of injury. I still came 5th. I had an amazing 2021. World's Strongest Man, not so much. I started the year off with World's Strongest Man 2021. The second that I landed in Sacramento, California. I don't know what it was. It was a stomach virus. It was a bug. It was something. But I was laid up in my bed, throwing up, diarrhea, sweating profusely for days straight. I ended up competing the first day of the heats, 25 pounds lighter, white, like pale, and I wasn't able to hold food down. So obviously I didn't perform very well. The bad luck streak at Worlds. So, but after Worlds, I went on to have an amazing 21. I made a decent amount of money. I put a lot of trophies on my shelf. I showed everybody what I was capable of, and then I belong at the top. So, an amazing year. And then 2022 rolls around, and World's Strongest Man. At World's Strongest Man 2022, I went into anaphylactic shock during the first event. I was allergic to something in the air. I inhaled it. It closed my throat during the moving event of the first event. I had to be rushed to the hospital, and yeah, I was able to convince my doctors and the doctors at World's Strongest Man to let me compete at Worlds, to let me compete on the next day. I missed one event. I think I got last on the loading race, obviously. And yeah, I was able to convince them to let me compete again. So the next day started with yoke. Yoke is my best event. It's one of my best events. I ended up getting the fastest time out of anybody in the entire competition. And yeah, it looked like I was on par to have an amazing comeback and have one of the best comeback stories of World's Strongest Man history, which I would have really liked, honestly. But unfortunately, it wasn't in the cards for me because the next event, the log, the residual side effects of what I was dealing with came back. And I also had a little bit of damage in my shoulder, and it was an overhead press event. It was log. So that kind of put me in a position where it was impossible for me to make it to the final. And I ended up not making the final for the third year in a row. And it's something that motivates me every day because it infuriates me. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do. I know that I'm good enough for that podium right now. I know it. So it's infuriating when I think about it. But it's okay. I went on to have a less than stellar year, riddled with hospital visits and injuries, nerve damage, shoulder issues. I ended up going to the hospital, and I underperformed on every competition that I did in 2022, every single one. And just when I was on the mend, mentally, physically, I was ready to go. I was ready to go to Giants Live Glasgow and win. I'm confident in that. I got invited to the Rogue Invitational. That was just this past weekend. It was an amazing show, by the way. I really hope I get invited next year. I got invited to the Rogue Invitational. I was going to do so well. The events were amazing for me. They were built for me. That was a great show for me. And while I was training, I tore my other bicep tendon. I tore my bicep tendon on my right arm, which hindered me from doing anything with it, which meant that my season was over. So not only did I underperform on the shows I did compete in, my season was also cut short. So yeah, 2022 has not been a kind year to me, but I don't let that change me, change my mindset, or affect me. I had my moment where I was really upset. I was bummed, I was depressed and all of that, but I refuse to let it keep me down. I refuse. I took my second, I felt it, I brushed it off, I moved on. Now I'm focused on recovering, and I'm refocused now more than ever on World's Strongest Man 2023. Giants Live, Brian Shaw Classic, Rogue Invitational. I want them all. I want them all. That is what my future holds. I am a man possessed. I'm hungrier than I've ever been. And I will tell you this right now, next year and every year after that, nothing will get in my way. Nobody will get in my way. I was put on this earth to be the world's strongest man. And that is exactly what I will be. May not be this year, may not be next year, may not be the year after that, but it's going to happen. That I promise. Thank you so much for watching my video. That was pretty much my life story up until this point, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos every week on Monday, so give you something to look forward to at the beginning of the week. And of course, until next time, TRX Kingdom, baby.